It all started with this damn package of lingerie, which, as it turned out, wasn't meant for me. I'm just a regular guy, living in a modest split-level house in a quiet Ohio suburb, the kind with neatly trimmed lawns and mailboxes with little red flags. My wife, Emily, and I have been married for 7 years, and life's been steady, like the hum of my old pickup truck. She's a marketing exec, always on the move, sharp as a tack, with a planner color-coded to the minute. Me? I'm a mechanic, hands stained with grease, happy fixing engines at the shop downtown. We're different, but it worked. Or so I thought. Emily had a weekend business trip coming up, nothing out of the ordinary. She'd been on plenty before, Chicago, Atlanta, once even Seattle for some big conference. This one was to Miami, a quick 2-day deal for a client pitch. I didn't bat an eye. Friday morning, I was nursing a black coffee in our kitchen, the kind of coffee that tastes like it could strip paint, while she packed. Her routine was like clockwork. Navy blazer folded over the back of the dining chair, her rolling suitcase parked by the front door, wheels scuffed from years of travel. She stood at the counter, zipping up her makeup bag, her dark hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. I leaned against the hallway wall, watching her move with that quiet efficiency I always admired. Her fingers tucked a tube of lipstick into the bag, then zipped it shut with a quick flick. "Don't forget to water the ferns," she said, glancing over with a half-smile. I nodded, sipping my coffee, not suspecting a damn thing. She grabbed her keys, gave me a quick peck on the cheek, and rolled her suitcase out the door. The lock clicked, and her car hummed down the driveway. I stood there, the house suddenly too quiet, just the tick of the wall clock and the faint buzz of the fridge. I figured I'd have a lazy weekend, maybe catch a game, tinker with the carburetor on my buddy's old Chevy. But the day felt off, like a wrench that doesn't quite fit the bolt. I shrugged it off, chalking it up to the quiet. By afternoon, I was rummaging through the upstairs closet for my favorite hoodie, the gray one with the frayed cuffs I've had since college. Emily's side of the closet was a masterpiece of organization. Blouses hung by color, sweaters stacked like they were ready for a department store display. I pushed past a row of cardigans, reaching for the shelf, when my hand brushed something soft, out of place. I pulled it out, and my heart skipped a beat. It was a package of red silk lingerie, delicate as silk, with lace edges that seemed more suited to a movie than our life. The package was empty. The tags were still on, $89.99 from some fancy boutique I'd never heard of. I stood there holding it like it could bite me. Where was the lingerie? Emily didn't wear stuff like this. Not for me, anyway. Our marriage was comfortable, practical, flannel pajamas and cotton tanks, not silk and lace. And she sure as hell didn't pack this kind of thing for board meetings. I'd seen her suitcase that morning. Sensible heels, a couple of blouses, maybe a skirt or two. This lingerie wasn't for a client pitch or a PowerPoint presentation. My mind started racing, replaying every detail of the morning. Her calm smile, the way she'd avoided my eyes when she said she'd be busy all weekend. I sat on the edge of our bed, the empty package still in my hands, the room feeling smaller, the air heavier. The ferns on the dresser stared at me, their leaves drooping like they knew something I didn't. I tried to talk myself down. Maybe it was a gift she hadn't shown me yet, or something she bought on a whim. But the tag, the way it was hidden, stuffed behind her sweaters like a secret, it didn't add up. My chest tightened, and I felt a hot prickle of doubt, the kind that makes your palms sweat. I've never been a paranoid guy, but this wasn't right. I knew it in my bones. I paced the bedroom, the floorboards creaking under my work boots. The clock said 3:47 p.m., and the house was still too damn quiet. I thought about calling her, asking straight up, but what would I say? "Hey, you planning to wear red silk for your client meeting?" No, that wouldn't do. I needed to think, to figure out what the hell was going on. My fingers were already scrolling through my phone, not even sure who I was looking for until I landed on a name. I didn't overthink it. I just hit the call button, my heart thumping like an engine out of tune, waiting for someone to pick up. It was Diane, the wife of Emily's boss, Greg, who runs the marketing firm where Emily works. Diane's the kind of woman who'd drop off brownies at the office but could spot a lie faster than most. I've always liked her, trusted her instincts, so when I dialed her up, my hands were sweaty, my heart thumping like a loose bolt. She answered quick, her voice warm but curious. "Tom? You okay?" I mumbled about a bad feeling, not sure how to put it into words. "Come over," she said. "I'll make coffee." I pulled my pickup into her driveway, a tidy colonial with a wraparound porch and rose bushes blooming red. Diane opened the door, her apron speckled with flour, her brown curls pulled back loose. "Caught me baking cookies," she said with a small grin, ushering me in. Her kitchen was straight out of a magazine, white cabinets, a butcher block counter, and a vase of sunflowers on the table. It smelled like vanilla and fresh ground coffee, the kind that hits you like a warm hug. She poured us mugs, mine black, hers with a splash of cream, and we sat at a sturdy maple table, its surface scuffed from years of family meals. The steam curled up, and I stared into my mug, trying to find the courage to speak. Finally, I let it out. "Diane, I think Emily and Greg are up to something," I said, my voice rough, like I'd swallowed gravel. "This trip of hers ain't right. She took things with her that shouldn't be there." Diane didn't flinch. Her green eyes locked on mine, sharp as a blade, and she set her mug down slow. "Tom, I've been suspicious of Greg for months," she said, her tone steady. "Late nights at the office, vague stories about client meetings. I've got no proof, but I know he's hiding something." Her words landed like a punch to the gut. I told her about Emily's trip to Miami, how she'd said it was a client pitch with Greg's team. "Greg's in Miami too," she said, her voice low. "Told me it's a networking thing. Said he'll be too busy to call much." The air between us got heavy, like the calm before a storm. We started swapping stories, each one a piece of a puzzle we didn't want to finish. Diane said Greg had been acting off, new ties she didn't buy, phone calls he'd take in the garage, always out of earshot. I mentioned Emily's late-night texting, how she'd tilt her phone away, her face lit up with a smile I hadn't seen in ages. "He's been withdrawing cash," Diane said, her eyes narrowing. "Hundreds a month. Says it's for work lunches. Who spends that much on burgers?" I nodded, thinking of Emily's new perfume, one I never smelled on her at home. Every detail was a crack in the trust we'd built, and my coffee sat untouched, getting cold. The kitchen was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the tick of a clock shaped like a teapot. Diane twisted a napkin in her hands, tearing it into bits. "I kept telling myself I was imagining things," she said, "but it's too much." I felt the same, like a fog was lifting, showing me what I'd been too blind to see. Their stories, Miami, clients, busy schedules, lined up too perfectly, like they'd planned it together. We couldn't just wait around, hoping for answers. Diane leaned forward, her voice firm as iron. "Tom, we've got to find out what's really going on." I nodded, my jaw tight, my resolve hardening like steel. Right there, at that sunlit table with cookie crumbs scattered around, we started plotting to get the truth, no matter what it took. We decided to follow them, to see what they were really up to, no matter how much it hurt. We didn't mess around. Diane got on her laptop, her fingers moving like she was born to book flights under pressure. We snagged 2 seats on a 5:30 a.m. flight out of Cleveland to Miami, the earliest we could get. Packing? Forget it. I grabbed my old Nikon camera, a heavy thing I'd used to snap photos of cars at the shop's annual show, and tossed its charger in a grocery bag. Diane threw her phone and a portable charger into her purse, zipping it shut with a snap. "This'll do," she said, her voice tight but steady. We were moving on instinct, no time to overthink. That evening, I stood in my living room, the glow of a muted baseball game flickering on the TV. My hands shook as I dialed Emily. I leaned on the arm of our worn leather couch, trying to sound like everything was fine. "Hey, hon, how's the trip?" I asked, forcing a grin into my voice. Her laugh came through, light and easy, like nothing was wrong. "Oh, tied up in meetings all day," she said, then added, "Miss you, babe." That word, babe, hit like a spark to dry grass. She sounded too smooth, like she was reading from a script. I mumbled something about missing her too, my throat tight, and hung up, the silence in the house louder than ever. Diane texted me after calling Greg. "He's networking," she wrote, adding a facepalm emoji. Same old lie. Their stories were mirror images, and it made my skin crawl. I barely caught a wink of shut-eye, my mind stuck on Emily's voice, the way it didn't quite match her usual self. By 3:30 a.m., I was in my truck, pulling up to Diane's house. She climbed in, dressed in a dark sweater and jeans, her face pale but her jaw set like she was ready for a fight. We didn't talk much, just let the hum of the engine fill the quiet as we headed to the airport. The flight was a haze, narrow seats, a crying baby 2 rows back, and coffee that tasted like burnt rubber. We landed in Miami at 8:45 a.m., the sun already hot, the air thick with humidity. Diane had booked us a room at the same resort as Emily and Greg, Some glitzy place called the Coral Sands, all glass and palm trees. We checked in under fake names, Mike Johnson for me, Sarah Miller for her, to stay off the grid. The desk clerk, a guy with a shiny name tag and a fake smile, handed us keycards for a room on the 4th floor. They're likely higher up, Diane muttered as we stepped into the elevator, her fingers tapping her purse. Our room was clean, with crisp white sheets and a view of the ocean sparkling like it was showing off. I set the camera bag on a small desk that would polish to a shine and pulled out a pair of binoculars I'd found in my garage, leftovers from a fishing trip with my dad years ago. They were scuffed but clear enough. Diane checked her phone's camera, making sure it was ready. You ever done anything like this? I asked, trying to lighten the mood. She shook her head, her lips tight. Feels like we're in a spy flick, she said, almost smiling. I chuckled, but it felt forced. This wasn't a game. Sneaking around, watching our spouses, it felt like I was betraying something, but their lies were the real betrayal. I adjusted the binoculars, testing them against the window, the beach below coming into focus. Diane stood beside me, her purse slung over her shoulder, her eyes scanning the room like she was memorizing it. We'll find them, she said, her voice low but sure. I nodded, gripping the binoculars tighter. It felt wrong, dirty even, but also like the only way to get answers. We spent the day scoping the place out, my binoculars and her phone camera ready. That evening, the sun was dipping low, painting the sky orange over the resort's sprawling pool area. Diane and I found a spot on the 4th floor balcony, half hidden behind a potted palm. I adjusted my binoculars, the lenses scratched but clear, and scanned the crowd below, tourists in bright swimsuits, kids splashing, waiters weaving through with trays of fruity drinks. Then I saw her. Emily, my wife, in a yellow sundress I'd never laid eyes on, all flowy and light, nothing like her usual office gear. She was sitting on Greg's lap, poolside, on a cushioned lounge chair. My heart sank like a busted piston. They weren't acting like coworkers. Her arm was around his neck, and they kissed, slow, easy, like they'd done it 100 times. My hand shook, blurring the binoculars, and I passed them to Diane. She took one look and whispered, "That's them, all right." We didn't say much, just grabbed our stuff and headed down, keeping our distance. They got up, hand in hand, and strolled toward the resort's restaurant, a swanky place with glass walls and fairy lights strung across the patio. Diane and I followed, blending in with the crowd, my camera slung over my shoulder like I was some tourist snapping vacation shots. Inside, the place was all polished wood and candlelight, smelling of grilled steak and jasmine. We snagged a table in the corner, behind a fake fern, where we could see them but they couldn't see us. Emily and Greg sat by the window, laughing, her hand brushing his across the table. She leaned in, her face close to his, and they kissed again, right before the waiter brought their desserts, some fancy chocolate thing with a mint sprig on top. My chest burned, but I kept my cool. I pulled out the camera, my hands steadier now, and zoomed in. Click. Their hands touching. Click. Her smile as she leaned closer. Click. Another kiss, her fingers in his hair. Each shot felt like a nail in a coffin, but we had what we needed, proof their business trip was a lie. Diane watched, her face hard, her phone tucked away for now. "We've got them," she muttered, her voice low but fierce. I scanned the restaurant, spotting a waiter, a lanky guy with a name tag that read Carlos. He was clearing a nearby table, his eyes darting around like he knew every secret in the place. I caught his attention, motioning him over. "Need a favor," I said, keeping my voice quiet. I slipped a crisp $100 bill from my wallet, folded it, and pressed it into his hand. "I'm planning a surprise for my wife and her boss. Need their room number." I forced a grin, like I was some doting husband. Carlos raised an eyebrow, his smirk saying he'd heard worse stories. "Room 1012, 10th floor," he said, pocketing the cash. "Good luck with your surprise." His smile was crooked, like he'd seen this kind of drama before, and I figured he probably had. Diane and I slipped out of the restaurant, the night air warm and salty. We stood by a palm tree, the pool's blue glow reflecting off her face. My camera hung heavy around my neck, the photos inside burning a hole in my mind. I felt like I was wading through mud, dirty and stuck, but also like I was finally seeing clear. We had the evidence, and now we had their room number. Whatever came next, we were ready to face it, even if it broke us. Sitting in our 4th floor room at the Coral Sands, the ocean breeze slipping through the cracked window, we planned our next move. My old Nikon camera sat heavy on the desk, and Diane's phone was charged, ready to record whatever we found. We knew Emily and Greg were at dinner, So we headed to the lobby to get a key to their room, 1012. The place was all glitz, marble floors, a chandelier sparkling like it cost more than my truck. At the front desk, a clerk named Javier, with a slick ponytail and a tired look, was typing away. I leaned in, keeping my voice low, my heart thumping like a loose fan belt. "Hey, man, I need a favor," I said, sliding a $50 bill across the counter, folded tight. "Lost the key to my buddy's room, 1012. Trying to set up a surprise for him and his colleague." I forced a grin, like I was just a guy planning a prank. Diane stood beside me, her purse clutched tight, her face calm but her eyes sharp. Javier glanced at the cash, then at us, and shrugged. "Surprises, huh?" he said, pocketing the bill. He tapped a few keys and handed over a keycard. "Don't break anything." We took the elevator to the 10th floor, the keycard burning a hole in my pocket. The hallway was quiet, lined with plush carpet and fake orchids in shiny vases. We waited in a nearby alcove, a vending machine humming softly, counting down 30 minutes to give Emily and Greg time to get back from dinner. My watch ticked past 9 p.m., and Diane checked her phone, her fingers restless. "They'll be there soon," she whispered, her voice steady but tight. I nodded, my stomach churning like bad oil. We crept to their door, listening for sounds. A muffled laugh, Emily's, came through, then Greg's low voice. My chest tightened, but I gave Diane a look. It was now or never. Their lies about this business trip were exposed, and now we stood in the dim light of room 1012, the air thick with their panic and the faint scent of spilled wine. Diane's eyes had a fire I'd never seen, like she was ready to burn it all down. Before we even crossed the threshold, she pulled out her phone, her thumb already on the camera app. "Let's make this public," she said, her voice sharp as a blade. I nodded, my heart pounding like a misfired engine. Diane hit the live stream button on Facebook, her phone glowing as she stepped into the room. She didn't say a word at first, just moved like a hunter, circling the bed, capturing every angle of Emily and Greg, still scrambling to cover themselves. The sheets were a mess, a candle flickering on the nightstand, casting shadows on their shocked faces. Emily fumbled for a robe hanging on a chair, her hands shaking, while Greg clutched a pillow, his face red as a brake light. Diane's voice cut through the chaos, calm but cold. "This is Diane Evans," she said, staring into the camera. "And this is my husband, Greg, caught red-handed with his coworker. Say hello to the internet. You too." Comments popped up on her screen, shocked emojis, gasps, names I recognized from back home. The video was spreading fast, like oil on water. I pulled out my phone, my hand steadier than I expected, and started recording too, zooming in on Emily's side of the bed. Her eyes were wide, her mouth open like she wanted to scream again but couldn't. "Hope your next board meeting's this exciting," I said, my voice low, dripping with the hurt I'd been carrying since I found that lingerie. She flinched, tugging the robe tighter, but it was too late. The internet was watching, and the comments kept coming: friends, coworkers, even Emily's cousin from Akron. Diane's feed was blowing up, shared hundreds of times before we even backed out of the room. Greg stammered, trying to say something, but Diane cut him off with a glare that could have stopped a train. We left them there, their voices fading as we hit the hallway, the door clicking shut behind us. Back in our room on the 4th floor, the ocean view dark now, we sat on the edge of the bed, the weight of what we'd done settling in. Diane opened her laptop, her fingers flying as she pulled up the footage we just shot. We uploaded it to an email, attaching timestamps and a PDF of our hotel check-in to prove we were here. I typed the subject line, "Misconduct, Weekend Business Trip." We sent it to their HR department, CCing the company's ethics board for good measure. Every click felt like a hammer striking a nail, sealing their fate. Diane reached into her purse and pulled out a small bottle of bourbon she'd grabbed at the airport. She poured 2 fingers into plastic hotel cups, the amber liquid catching the light from a cheap lamp. We clinked cups, the sound sharp in the quiet room. "To the truth," she said, her voice softer now but still fierce. I nodded, the bourbon burning my throat as I took a sip. One drink became 2, the warmth spreading through me, loosening the knot in my chest. We didn't talk much, just sat there, the hum of the AC mixing with the distant crash of waves. The hurt was still there, raw and heavy, but for the first time all weekend, I felt like I was steering my own life again. After everything we'd seen, their kisses by the pool, their lies on the phone, that room with its tangled sheets, something shifted. Diane looked at me, her eyes softer now, and I felt a pull, like 2 people who'd been through a war together. We didn't say much, didn't need to. The bourbon warmed our hands, and the silence wasn't empty anymore. It felt like control, like we'd taken back what they tried to steal. But the morning after, the sun barely up, the fallout hit like a busted transmission. Diane and I were still in our room, tangled in the crisp white sheets of the king-sized bed, the air heavy with the salty breeze slipping through the cracked window. We'd crossed a line ourselves, the bourbon and raw hurt pulling us together, and we were still catching our breath when the door flew open with a bang. Emily stood there, her face twisted with rage, her eyes red and wild. She screamed, a high-pitched wail that echoed off the walls, calling me a cheater, a hypocrite, every name she could throw. Her hair was a mess, her blouse wrinkled like she'd been pacing all night. I sat up, the sheets falling away, and looked her dead in the eye, my heart pounding but my voice steady. Now you know how it feels, I said, slow and deliberate, letting each word land. Her face crumpled, and she spun around, sobbing as she stormed out, the door slamming behind her. Diane didn't flinch, just reached for a pack of cigarettes on the nightstand, a cheap brand she'd bought at the airport. She lit one, the flame flaring briefly, and took a long drag, watching the door with a calm that felt like steel. Let her go, she said, smoke curling from her lips. We packed up fast, my camera, her phone, a couple of crumpled clothes, and caught a noon flight back to Ohio. The plane was cramped, the air stale, but I barely noticed. My mind stuck on Emily's screams and that video we'd sent to HR. By the time we landed in Cleveland, the gray sky matching my mood, my phone was buzzing nonstop. The video Diane had live-streamed was everywhere, Facebook, group chats, even my cousin's barber had seen it. Notifications piled up, shocked messages, angry emojis, and a few, "You okay?" texts from buddies at the shop. We grabbed our bags and split up at the airport, Diane heading to her place, me to her house, the one that didn't feel like home anymore. When I got there, the living room was quiet, the TV off, the couch still dented from where I'd sat 2 days ago. My phone rang, and it was my mom, her voice crackling through the line. "Tom, I saw what happened," she said, her tone soft but proud. "You kept your cool, son. I'm real proud of you." I swallowed hard, managing a "thanks, Ma," before hanging up. Then a text popped up from Emily's brother, Mike, of all people, a thumbs-up emoji. No words, but it said enough. Even her own family knew she'd crossed a line. I didn't waste time. I drove to the bank, a small brick building with a flickering ATM sign, and sat with a teller named Linda, who'd known me since high school. I closed our joint accounts, my hands steady as I signed the forms, transferring my half to a new account. Emily's name was off everything by 3 p.m. Next, I called a lawyer, a guy named Dan who my buddy at the shop swore by. His office was a cramped space downtown, smelling of old coffee and paper. I laid it all out, the trip, the video, everything. Dan leaned back in his creaky chair, nodding. "You've got a strong case, Tom," he said, scribbling notes. "We'll get this moving." Back home, I sat on the porch, a cold beer in hand, the evening air cool against my skin. The neighborhood was quiet, just the hum of crickets and a distant dog barking. My phone kept buzzing with messages about the video, but I ignored them. For the first time in days, I felt like I was driving my own life again, not just along for the ride. Emily's betrayal stung, but I'd faced it head-on, and with Diane by my side, we'd turned the tables. Whatever came next, I was ready. 2 weeks after we got back to Ohio, word came down from the marketing firm. Emily and Greg were fired. No severance, no second chances, just a cold email from the ethics board citing gross misconduct. I heard it from a buddy who still worked there, said the office was buzzing, folks whispering about the video that had spread like wildfire across town. Diane and I stayed tight after that. It's funny how getting stabbed in the back by the people you trusted most can tie you to someone else. We'd meet up at her place or mine, splitting a six-pack or grilling burgers in my backyard, the smell of charcoal mixing with the summer air. There was an ease between us, no need to hide or fake it. We'd talk about the shop, her gardening, or just sit quiet, watching fireflies blink in the dusk. No secrets, just two people who'd seen the worst and come out stronger. 8 months rolled by, and the divorce was finalized. I sat in Dan's office, my lawyer's cramped space downtown, signing papers on a desk cluttered with coffee mugs and legal pads. The judge gave me the house, a modest split level with creaky floors and a porch I'd built myself, and my old pickup, its paint chipped but the engine purring like a cat. Most important, I got my peace of mind back. No more wondering what Emily was hiding, no more second-guessing every smile. The papers were signed, and I walked out feeling lighter than I had in years, the spring sun warm on my face as I climbed into my truck. Word around town was that Emily had moved in with Greg, shacking up in some apartment across the river. I didn't ask for details, but you can't avoid gossip in a place like this. My buddy at the shop said he saw them at the diner once, sitting across from each other, barely talking, their faces drawn like they were carrying the weight of their own lies. Folks said they didn't look happy, and I wasn't surprised. You can't build a life on deception, no matter how hard you try. I didn't wish them ill, but I didn't lose sleep over it either. Me? I'm doing all right. Better than all right, really. Diane and I still get together some evenings, sitting on my porch with its peeling paint, sipping whiskey or iced tea, depending on the mood. The neighborhood's quiet, just the hum of crickets and the occasional car rolling by. We'll laugh about that Miami weekend, how we turned into amateur detectives with a camera and a bribe. Remember that waiter's smirk? Diane'll say, her eyes crinkling, and I'll chuckle, picturing us sneaking around like we were in some spy movie. It's a good laugh now, but back then, it was raw, like a fresh cut. The house feels like mine again, filled with my tools, my music, my life. I've been fixing up the garage, adding a workbench for side projects, maybe even restoring that old Chevy I've had my eye on. Diane's been planting roses in her yard, and sometimes I'll stop by to help, getting dirt under my nails and not minding one bit. It's strange how betrayal can break you open but also set you free. I'm not angry anymore, not like I was. I've got my truck, my home, and a friend like Diane who gets it. Who knew getting hurt like that would lead me here, to a life that feels right, like an engine finally running smooth. 8 months after the papers were signed, I was settling into a new rhythm. Diane and I had grown close, bonded by the betrayal we'd faced together. One cool September evening, we were out on my porch, the air crisp, the sky streaked with pink. My old wooden rocking chair creaked as I leaned back, a glass of bourbon in hand, the ice clinking softly. Diane sat across from me, her boots propped on a stool, swirling her own drink, the porch light catching the amber liquid. My phone buzzed, cutting through the quiet hum of crickets. It was Dan, my lawyer, his voice gruff but urgent. "Tom, you need to hear this," he said. My gut tightened, like a wrench slipping off a bolt. During the divorce proceedings, Emily's medical records had come up, something about a disputed insurance claim. They showed she was pregnant, for months along at the time of that Miami trip. The math hit like a freight train. That business trip wasn't just a fling. Emily and Greg had been planning to ditch us, file for divorce first, and start over with their kid. The secrecy, the lies, it was all part of their exit plan, a new life they thought they could build behind our backs. My chest felt like it was caving in, the bourbon turning sour in my mouth. Diane saw my face and set her glass down, her green eyes sharp. "What's wrong?" she asked. I told her, my voice low, the words heavy. Her jaw tightened, but she reached over, grabbing my hand, her grip firm. "You're free of their mess, Tom," she said, her voice steady as a steel beam. "They don't get to drag you down anymore." Her words cut through the haze, grounding me like a well-timed spark plug. That night, Diane came over, bringing a bottle of bourbon from a local distillery, the label worn and familiar. We sat on the porch again, the air cooler now, leaves rustling in the yard. She poured us each a fresh glass, the ice cracking as it hit the liquor. "To new starts," she said, raising her glass, her smile small but real. I clinked mine against hers, the sound sharp in the quiet evening. The weight of Emily's betrayal, that hidden truth, lifted a little. Their future, the kid, the apartment, the life they'd planned, wasn't my burden anymore. I had my house, my truck, and Diane's laugh echoing in the dark. For the first time, I felt like I was driving forward, not stuck in reverse. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Diane's decision to live stream the confrontation is a game changer. Do you think going public was the right call, or should they have kept it private? And if you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.